Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here today. My name is Lucy Moscoso, and I'm the Education Lead for Latinas Power. We're so excited to have Nashira Williams today. As you know, at Latinas Power, we stand for equality. So today we are launching our first virtual equality table. So this is going to be a conversation where we're going to focus on learning and understanding how can we better serve and advocate in action for the African American community. So we're so excited to have Dr. Nashira Williams. She's the director from the Florida International University Women's Center and a councilwoman. And she's also Miami native with proud Caribbean and African American families. Nashira has always been engaged in conversations with Latin women and in the communities, where she taught students and provides services, which she did a lot with the Afro-American community. She graduated from FSU and she worked with Latinx communities. And she returned to Miami and earned her master's and doctorate degree. And she does a lot of roles volunteering in the community. So Nashira, welcome. But also I want to pass the word to our Latinas Power founder, Sulmari Patin, who will be hosting and moderating this virtual table. Sulmari?
Yes, thank you. So I am officially passing the baton to you, Lucy, for continue to admit the people who joined the conversation. I already made Nashira a co-host, so Nashira, you're going to be able to share your screen. So the first thing that I want all my community, Latinas Power, to understand is that I am white skin, I have green eyes. I didn't wear mascara today because this is a very touching situation and conversation for me. I want you to understand that we were lost out of words like everybody else, which has been going on with our African American community. But we were also the first organization in the Latin community with influence that made a statement on how we felt about what was going on. And we also decided to pause all our activity during the week, and that happened on June 4th. We decided not only to pause, but we decided to reflect. We decided to find resources. We created a very powerful document that right now you can find on our LinkedIn, and you can also find on Instagram. That's called Anti-Resources Document. When we didn't compile a document, we actually went to the experts with tons of articles, movies, books that we can all read so we can understand the situation better. Because as Latinas, some of us do feel the heat if we are Afro-American, if we are Afro-Latina, but there are other Latinas like me who are from the Caribbean. So I want you to know that there's every part of Africa in my body, in my blood, in my DNA, as it is on Nashira, even though our skin colors are very different. And it touches me because in the Caribbean, most of you might not know, but the Caribbean, just like America, was founded with the African slaves who came from Africa at the time that we were also building the Caribbean with the Spaniards. So in every part of our food, of our music, el reggaeton, even la salsa, everything that is part of who I am, it's founded on the African American culture. So I felt the pain, I cried, just like a lot of Latinas in this conversation. We were all like, but we didn't know how to go about it because in my case, I am not the messenger, but I am a leader that stands for equality. And I know what it means to be discriminated for race because as blanquita as I am, and with my beautiful green eyes, I have a lot of doors that have opened for me, but as quickly they have closed for me when they hear me speak Spanish, or they think I'm too loud, or I move too sexy, or they just think whatever. They make up the biases that people have against being a Latina. That's why I thought, we really needed to be careful, respectful, and we needed to bring support from someone who's an expert, okay? as an expert, as an advocate, someone who's been doing conversations and who leads not only conversations of advocacy, training and development to be for people to understand the Black community, even the Black volunteers, and Nashira will talk a little bit more about that, but who also has a daughter. I don't know if you saw in the photos, we shared the photos of her and her daughter on Instagram, who also have a daughter Afro-Latina, and who also has experience working with the Latin community. So Nashira for us is the gift from God. I mean, we know we've been searching for a few days. How do we go about launching this table? And we needed someone with her stature. We also needed someone with her understanding of our culture, the Latinas, to help us better navigate this so we can be a support and we can be Latinas Power in action, advocating and sharing and teaching. And one of the things that I've read from the many things that they have been sharing is that just to be on the sideline is not enough to change systemic discrimination, right? It's not enough. So every woman here has a voice, and every woman here has a scope of influence. That's why you are Latinas Power. And we want you to learn from Nashira, and there's gonna be in the chat box, you're gonna be able to ask questions to her. And the goal is for you to get, and what you don't get and ask, so we can be better allies for our African American community, okay? So on that note, thank you again, Nashira. Thank you, Lucy. And thank you, Katia Escobar, because Katia Escobar was the one, she's on the call right now. She's our organization lead. I was crying all the time. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I couldn't lead this conversation in any way because I was lost out of words at all points. But Katia Escobar, who has actually also, she was in the riots by surprise, okay? She was in Miami, having a beautiful day on Biscayne Bay, and then all of a sudden, she was right then and there when the riots were going on. And Katia was the one who sent me a voicemail and said, Sulmari, here are my ideas on how to tackle this. And she engaged all our community, and that's how we got started. So thank you, Katia Escobar, for that leadership, for being a Latinas Power in Action, for your initiative. And thank you, Lucy, for running con la antorcha. Okay, you know, I can do this. Thank you, Lisbeth Ceballos, who's also on the call, who also took la antorcha and said, okay, and Maribel Soto. These are all the women who said, okay, how can we help? Let's do it. And this is the first of that initiative. So I'm gonna pass it on to Nashira. And then the first questions that I have for her, as she will present herself and give a little bit more of her perspective on this, is what are those 3 Ps that we need to know, okay? Because I like how you have like a formula, right? On how we can stand for equality and justice.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I find it really difficult to follow very powerful women, so I appreciate that. Imposter syndrome is everywhere. So I think if we come to this table knowing that, you know, I'm your expert today, but I continue to evolve in my education and understanding. And so, excuse me. So I just am very grateful for that great introduction from you, Lucy, and as well as you, Zulmari. My name is Nashira. I am very youthful looking, and I'm also very young, and that's okay. I've spent a lot of time in Miami. I'm a native here. I was born and raised, and I spend a lot of time really trying to figure out how we can make the education system equitable. So I was a teacher, I'm a councilwoman, that I deal with a lot of zoning and housing, but all of those things interact. So especially since we pay property taxes here, and your property taxes go to the schools, and if you're not getting enough money, then your schools become a problem. So that's really like my heart's sake. But in that as well is this fight for civil rights and making sure that I'm doing everything that I can, those next steps to understanding what is next. And so today we're talking about equality, and we're going to push it a little bit and talk a little bit about equity and a little bit about justice. But equality means exactly this. We're coming together at the same table. We all have a stake in what's happening. And we're going to see what that looks like for some of the things that are happening on a larger scale. So Mari, like you said, the 3 Ps, I think when I think about equality and what's going on and how I can make a difference, I think about how it's personal for me. And so I think by and large, sometimes what other cultures see, or what we call racism as African Americans, other cultures see more of like colorism. So the nicknames that really rely on the skin, like your color, the color of your skin, like negrita, or the coiliness of your hair. In America, we call those microaggressions. So if someone's like, oh, your hair is so curly, yeah, that's kind of how it grows out of my head. Like, I don't really have control over that. And so we don't see it necessarily. We see a systemic racism here in America, but I'm sure in other countries, there is the systemic racism in this valuing of white skin over darker skin. And so really trying to figure out how it's personal for you. I have a daughter, she is Puerto Rican and Black. My nephew is Chilean and Black. And then I have a couple of students that I've taught over the years that are El Salvadorian or Mexican. And I've learned a lot when I went to my service trip to Peru. And so really kind of seeing a little bit of different aspects of South America, Central America, and the Caribbean have been really important to understand that we all have a personal stake. There is someone that maybe our family doesn't talk about, right? Who has darker skin. There are the African roots that we have, and we just aren't talking about it. So really figuring out what those personal stakes are and moving forward. So some of you have been in Miami long enough to see the protests that have happened against the Cuban people. Some of you have been in Miami long enough to see the protests that happened for Elian Gonzalez's justice, right? And so that's what we're doing, is we're taking this personal and moving it into the political. And that's the second P. If you don't see the movement and these protests and these riots as political, I'm here to tell you that they're political. We're asking for policy changes so that no one ever has to go out in the middle of COVID-19 amongst a ton of people to protest for the lives of individuals. And so a lot of South American countries, Central American countries have utilized protests as political measures. And I think sometimes that's difficult to come around because if we're not really understanding the policies in America, if we're not understanding, what they're saying, like defund the police, some of us have police officers in our family. So if we're not really understanding that political stance, it makes it very, very difficult for us to get on board with it as a political movement. So I will say that for individuals who are of color in this United States of America, the personal is political. If you have any space that you have been able to craft or cultivate, it is because someone fought for it. And so if you are trying to remove yourself because you just don't do politics, it's a privilege, and someone else did politics so that you can do that. So really trying to invest and see how you can personally invest in that political landscape is important. And the last one is power. So the third one is recognizing what your power is. You already know your personal stake. You already know that it's political. And the only way to move forward is to move forward with power. So that I think is really kind of where we are, right? Is Zamari, when you talk to me about it, you're like, what do I do? How do I use the power that I have to move mountains? First of all, we don't necessarily need to move mountains. We can move petals. If that's what we need, pebbles. If that's what we need, cool. You can move a pebble. Eventually, other people will move the mountain. So sometimes it is having the conversation after watching the news with your family members. That's sometimes the hardest part of it, is when a family member that you love and adore say, I don't know why they're out there. This doesn't make sense. Have that conversation. Instead of ignoring it, instead of like, okay, another day, have that conversation so that at least you know that you have used your power in some way. I might not be able to change their decision about why we're out there, but you might be able to, and really making it connect. So some people understand the protests in Venezuela, equated to that. This inequity that's happening in this country it's very similar to the inequity that Black people see here, and that is why they're protesting. And it's working in an effect in Venezuela, and they're hoping that it works in an effect here as well. So really trying to draw those connections are important. It takes a little bit of research. I do have to do a lot of research, but I like it, so it's okay. And so then I think then you think about the ways that the movement at large can be helped. And so being in the middle of a riot or a protest is not where it is for some people. I understand. My parents are not protesting. I've gone to a couple of protests. But there is a likelihood that you will get sick. They've been using tear gas. They've been using rubber bullets. Like, the safety of that is really, it can be very traumatizing. Some of you have participated in protests in the past, and that is very jarring. Like, you know what it's like to be tased or tear gassed or shot at or humiliated. So that's not an option for you, and I get that. But if you have the financial means, there are a lot of spaces that are giving to the movement, and so you can do that. There's also, and I'm gonna put it in the chat because I am trying to be all. Somos for Black Lives is a place where you can sign a petition so that they know that you're in solidarity with the movement that's going on. Sometimes that's all we can do, is make sure that we sign something. And there is an author who wrote a Miami Herald op-ed that is also doing the Somos for Black Lives. So I think those are a couple of things. And lastly, I think, as you talked about, Zamari, is making sure that you dedicate some time to your normal schedule towards Black Lives Matter, or towards an element that you feel personally connected to. And so it might not ever be that you say Black Lives Matter on your Facebook or Twitter. I mean, I approve it, but if it's a little too much for you and you're really not getting the connection yet, maybe it is, I stand in solidarity with those who are being oppressed. I want to make sure that there's no longer oppression in this world. And that really connects all of the different cultural movements that are happening right now, that we can move through. I'm sorry. So yeah, the three things are personal, political, and power. Once you recognize the personal, understand that it's going to act in the political, and then figure out how you can empower others, because the fight is real and it's a marathon. It is not a sprint. We've been doing this for a long time. Some of you have been doing it for a long time. And so when you realize that empowering others and passing that baton will continue to help you fight, that's what we're here for. And I think Zamari made it a really, really clear that Latinas Power is all about making sure that other women are able to carry the baton, are able to be empowered by the different things that we are talking about.
Okay, and I really like, so Lucy, if you can help us kind of follow through here in the conversation and in the chat box, because there's three points are very powerful. And I'm, and as you were sharing, then I was thinking, okay, how can I implement them? So the first one is personal, right? So then that means that, for example, on LinkedIn, when I didn't know what to say, right, I went to my personal. I went, okay, so what can I say that's personal to me? So I'm just checking in here to see if this is what we're talking about, right? I do a lot of things by intuition, right? Because I want to lead, I want to make things happen, right? And also for the ones who know me in the Strength Finder, I'm an activator.
All right.
So my strength is I don't know what to say, but I have to say something and I have to do something. If I believe in it, right? If I stand for equality as a leader, I have to say something. So for me, personal was, okay, what would be a story for me? And that's when I share on LinkedIn the same story that I shared in the beginning of the conversation, that people don't think I have African-American heritage. Well, let me let you know that I do. And here's the reason why. And I educated a little bit. I even put like a link of how the Caribbean, not just Puerto Rico, but the Caribbean was built on the African-American, with the African slaves from Africa. And then I went on to share also all the things that we take benefit, which is a little bit of what I gave you in the intro. So first, the three pieces personal, okay? So I guess finding, the women who are here from Venezuela, I think that they can use that argument. I like that. I haven't thought about it that way. So then we have a lot of women from Venezuela here who can keep the conversation saying, do you relate to us? Do you get what we're going through? Okay, well, guess what? It's the same thing, for the African-American community. Now, and the second one is?
Oh, political.
And this really hits me, because the way I feel is I haven't gone to any protest. And the reason why I haven't is because I am like so overwhelmed by this. that if I go to a protest, I'm going to be crying, I would get depressed, and I'm like, you know what, I have to have some sanity so I can continue to lead in the places that I can make change, and that is with Latinas Power and with what I do every day. Now, on that, my thing is vote. So when you say political, right, I'm just say vote. You know, you want to change the world, just go vote and do whatever you need to do to vote. And make sure that when you're voting, you're analyzing and making a vote for those who really have shown the leadership that has shown equality. I'm not going to get political here because I don't want to go there. I don't want to take away the conversation. But it's very clear right now who stands for the African Americans and who doesn't. And the president or the political party who does not stand for the African American, does not stand for Latinos, does not stand for Chinese, doesn't stand for anybody, because equality is a value. Either you value other lives or the people that don't think like you, or you don't. There's no, there's no in between. And the other one is power.
Yes.
Okay, power of influence.
Yes, so power of influence, power of the vote, that's a good one. So understanding not only I'm going to vote, that's my political right, but now I need to empower other people to vote. So that's where your power is, right? So that passing along of information to get others to act and maybe even transform their ideologies. And so I give you, Zamar, you've given like a lot of grace to yourself. I appreciate it, because I would even start that the personal was crying, like even just crying and feeling it is a personal act of solidarity.
Well, I did a lot of that. It took me a while to come up and be able to say, Kathy and I were like, oh my God, it was brutal. But you're right, good point.
Yeah. Just attaching the feelings and then moving along that lines, even a LinkedIn can be a powerful movement. Some people feel like, okay, this person stands on the fence, I can't approach them with a political understanding. So putting something on LinkedIn that you've never done before, that's some power. That is saying to my followers, here we go, let's engage in this conversation. I know I've never done that before, but now is my time to get off the fence. Like, I'm over it, and you should be over it too. And so I think that's a really great example, Zamar, because I think understanding where things are is going to look different for everybody. Some of us will take a long time thinking about how this is personally attached to us, and it'll take us weeks, maybe even. But some of us are like, no, I know a student who was already at a protest. I know that, my sibling is married to a Black man. Like, anything like that's going to be quick for us. And then we're going to move very quickly into the political and understanding the landscape and figuring out what we can do. And then power might take us a little bit longer because we are still a little bit quarantined. Negotiating with people and trying to get them to see your side may take a little bit longer. Some of you have voted for the last, 20, 30, 40 years. I'm not sure who's on the call, 10 years. Are you going to run for office? Are you going to work on a campaign? Are you going to be a PTA representative? How are you going to ensure or instill your values with the next person? And that's where that power comes from, is really just trying to figure that out. Some of you are just, you're raising your family, and the power that is in raising the next generation is immensely big. So when do you start having those conversations, if you haven't, with your children about race relations? That might be your power. That might be your first step to understanding that, yes, this is political. If I don't teach my children or my nieces or my nephews or my cousins, some of us have smaller cousins, about what's going on, they may grow up to feel or believe things that are untrue. And that is going to be just as transformative as believing things that are positively motivated to create equality.
Yes, and on that note, I also want my Latinas Power to know that, all our influencer members, they have the opportunity to write articles for our community. So Lisbeth Ceballos, for example, who's on this call, she wrote an incredible piece on LinkedIn, and we share that also in our LinkedIn. So everybody, that's another power that you have. You belong to Latinas Power. We're standing, like, we're doing a lot of the work for you. You don't know what to say, but we are getting, we're getting prepared, and we're saying things. we're sharing a lot of things on social media that if you don't know how to go about it, you can simply repost, you know. And so there's a lot that just by reposting or putting things out there that you find you resonate with you, you have the power of influence to the pebble or to the 10 people who are on your community. But just by you making a stand, that already does a lot of the work. And that's why we decided, you know, to do like all the different things that we felt powerful about to associate ourselves. We have converted our social media into that conversation. And I'm actually very sad, to be honest, and I'm sharing this with all my Latinas here. I'm sad that I haven't seen the Latinas more engaged in this conversation. Okay, I haven't even seen the Latinos. Like, I'm sad that to see that we were actually one of the only organizations who made a stand, as in this is not going on with us. And you know, we experience everything that our African American community experiences as Latinos. You know, we're discriminated. Latinas are the ones, we make less money than the African American women. Okay, so if we're going to talk about a group who's being more impacted than any other group, it would be us. And when it comes to biases, the Latinas are perceived to just have babies, to be prostitutes. They're sexy and sensual. Like, there's, you know, to be like sexual workers. That's like, okay, you know, they're hot and they're hot, and that's like our place in life. Submissive. We don't, you know, we just follow and we bow. Like, and we're not in this call. There's none of that, right? So we do have that privilege that we have influence, that we have a voice, that we are communicators. And then we can really exercise and make a stand for that. So what I would like then now to open is for questions, unless there's anything else, Nashira, that you would also want to, is there anything else that you want to share with us that?
Yeah, so I saw a great poster that someone was holding in Chicago at the rally, and you all have to excuse my Spanish. It is always rusty. I'm doing my best, but tu lucha es mi lucha. My battle or my struggle is your struggle is my struggle, or my fight is your fight, and so I think, regardless of cultural identity, we have all had struggles that we can connect and relate to, and some of the same things that that you all have fought over time, and honestly probably will continue to fight in certain countries. The Black community understands, and you all can hold us accountable to standing with you, especially when you're standing with us in this moment. Because your fight, my fight is your fight is my fight. And if we fight together and we're united, we can definitely change.
We can change.
Absolutely.
And there's power, and I want to remind all of us in this call, there's collective power in unity, right? Together, like, not separated, the African American here trying to fight it, and then Latinos here trying to fight it. Like, just to give you an idea, when I wanted to change the perception, you know, thinking about the power of influence, what can we do? So when you would write Latinas Power 3 years ago on Google, what you would get was tons of women who were sexual workers and tons of websites that were catering to escorts, okay? In the power of numbers, when we launched Latinas Power and we started giving visibility to Latinas who are not sexual workers or escorts, but who are in business, who are doing amazing things. Now, when you go Google Latinas Power 3 years later, you will see that the first things are all successful, powerful women, even using the hashtag Latinas Power. We have even opened up and for other groups to join, for the hashtag to continue to be used. Even on the political stand, the hashtag has been used as Latina Power. So, and you'll see the difference just by doing that. Just by us saying, okay, we're gonna be members, we're gonna join, and we're gonna get out there and have the courage to share our voice and to be successful and to break those barriers. That right there is a big change. And you can see it on Google, right? That was not the case 3 years ago. Okay, so there's power in uniting and collectively, supporting each other to bring about change. And that's why I think it's so important for us to use our voice and to understand what it means that tu lucha es mi lucha. I mean, I really like that, yeah. So, and is there anything else that you think that we're not asking, that you think we should be asking, or that we should really be more aware of in this quest?
Yeah, I'm a fan of self-reflection. So as you all reflect, you can always reach out to me. I'm the only Nashira that works at FIU. It's super easy to find me. But I also think about if there is power in walking away. Think about who or what you need to walk away from because they do not align and they will not align with your values. It may be, that's probably the hardest power to exercise, is understanding that at this point you can see my children but you can't see me. We cannot have a conversation, and that's okay until you evolve your understanding of what's happening. And so if you have friends, family members are a little bit more difficult. Friends is a little bit less hard, but if you have them that just can't understand, there's power in walking away. I think for us that are ingrained in the Black Lives Matter movement, one of the things that will really kind of give us the power and the courage to walk away is telling us all lives matter. And there's no longer a conversation. I'm walking away because it is something so that you can silence me. And, I take it from my Latina sisters. I will not be silenced. I don't care if I have to do a head roll and say a couple more things. I will not be silenced. You will hear me. And so I think that is, if anything else, you don't remember anything else, you have the power to stop this intergenerational fight by just walking away. And your disengagement with that person no longer gives them an audience, so they don't even have anybody to share their backwards thinking to or anything like that. And that can start the reflection for them, because they can no longer share it with anyone. They can only share it with themselves. And it's hard to look in the mirror alone when you have no one else there to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? It also makes me think of the brands. I think that right now, one thing I've been observing and paying attention of which brands really stand by the conversation and which brands are in the status quo or they don't want to get involved. And I'm paying attention because at the end, it really hurts people in their pockets. So for example, the people from CrossFit, this just happened. Yeah. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the CEO of CrossFit, oh my God, he dared to put a tweet and made Floyd 19, like it was Floyd part of like COVID. And all of the owners, he had a lot of affiliates, just walk away on the guy. And even Reebok had a contract with him, a big contract that they were in the works, and Reebok canceled the contract. And I think if we go to our little walls, any restaurant, any bakery, any women who's selling products or services, you make a stand, how? Moving money. Money speaks, okay? In America, money speaks, and it speaks volumes. Yes. So I would also be paying attention to that because it sends a message to their P&L. And when the P&L doesn't go, believe me, they're going to find a leader who can speak to the conversation. And while we wait to vote in November, which is what I really hope every woman does here, they go vote and they encourage other women and we rally up so we can all vote, because that's where we're going to see change, starting with the legislations, or promoting women to run for office, even in any shape or of simple form, or getting, like you say, self-aware and understanding of the policies, because just for you to know, and I don't know if you're aware of this, my Latinas Power community here, but the women, I forget her name, oh my God, Ruth, right now, who is in the Supreme Justice, the oldest of them all, that women change America for women's rights more than any protest, more than Gloria Steinem, more than anything. It was her, because she went to law school and she was the only one who graduated from 500 men in her school of law school, and she was the only woman when she graduated. And she took it on, that Little Women that you see there, and you should really, really see her movie. So you can talk about power of influence. Power of influence happens in the law. And she took it on, and she went in the law, and that's where no protests out there. No, they're writing, studying, and changing policy. That's how we make change happen. So if you don't want to run for politics, I get it. I don't want to run for politics, but you can support a woman who does. Okay, and I think that's key. So are there any questions from the group?
So there was one question about someone saying that they had a Black friend or a Latina friend. And so if it's me, I'm audacious. I'm like, okay, call them up. Let's talk to them. Let's see if you're a good friend to them, because just saying that they're there is not the same. Like, we go to classes with people who look differently than us. Doesn't mean that they're there. But all of us can't be that audacious. So I think really kind of letting them know that sentiment is typically said by people to either shut up the conversation, or it's said to somehow make them feel validated. It doesn't make me feel validated. And do you want to talk about this, or do you want to ignore it? And at that point, they have to make a choice, right? Like, well, you know, I actually don't want to talk about it. Okay, these things are important to me. Why don't you want to talk about them? Or these things are important to me. If we can't talk about them, then I don't know about this friendship. Or if they if they're basically kind of making sure that you know that we're all equal, you can say, unfortunately, we all aren't equal. I don't know how your Black or Latin friend is feeling at this time. You may want to check in with them, because saying that hurt me, and it might even hurt them that you're not even thinking about them in this time. And so that's really just providing a lot of grace. You know your friends, you know what they're doing it for, but I apply grace to all situations. I'm a very cool-headed, level-headed person, and I try and think the good of everyone. And so that's kind of how I would start. Are you trying to ignore the situation, or are you trying to say that we're all equal? Either way, you did it in a very poor way. Let's talk about why you did that.
That's a good point. So so just for you to know, Librada Estrada is on the call, and she's our expert on managing and doing Zoom calls, very successful. So she has to teach us a few things that I'm applying today. So the first one is to give us some instructions on how to do our questions. So if you're not a member of our community, you're please more than welcome to share your questions on the chat box. But if you are a member of our community, you can ask me for the mic, and then I will turn on the camera. So Kathy Escobar has a question for Nashira. So Kathy, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and talk to Nashira.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nashira, for showing up with such grace and power. That's powerful in itself. I really appreciate that. And everybody that put this together. So I had a question in reference to how to be powerful at work, right? And making sure that that message is sent up to management. What I did yesterday in my leadership meeting, I told my executive team and my leaders, we do not have representation of one single Black person. Not because there's racism, you know, because obviously I get to lead that now since I'm the headhunter here. And I told them, I don't know if it's legal or not. However, people are asking for leaders to demonstrate what is their leadership team, right? And I don't know if that's legal or not, but we do have our team listed on our site, and there is no representation. So I will be going out and headhunting for this individual. There is no questions asked. However, I understand that I possess that power and can make that decision. But what about other people that may not have that seat? What can they do?
Mm-hmm. So I think bringing it up, saying this is a critical hiring area. And so I think that's how we say it in higher ed, is like critical hiring. I am the only Black female director on our unit at the university, so that can feel a little isolating. Sometimes your structure is set, but there are boards that govern some of the parts of your job. And so making sure that the board is representative of all individuals. So we may not be able to make changes to those who are full-time employees, but we can make changes to the boards because things are up for election or appointment or however. And so we can make that a critical understanding that, okay, we understand that we have an issue here of representation as it comes to those who are being hired, but our board has representation, and they're the ones that approve a lot of the decisions within the company. So making sure that people understand that is really good. And then I think always lobbying and getting people to understand, okay, someone's retiring. Are we looking at this as a critical opportunity to hire for more representation? If people say, well, we've hired in the past and it didn't work out, why? What's in the policy that is not working out? Because if you've hired individuals in the past, that means they were energized to work here, but something in the policy may not have worked out. So looking at policies, making sure that the hiring policies are accurate, making sure that the onboarding and recruitment policies include opportunities to provide representation. And then, I stayed at kind of like the lower level before, making sure that you're listening to those who are represented as the only person to see what they can do, what you can do to make them feel included, so that that they can tell more people about the company. Word of mouth for everybody follows, like it's like the best promoting opportunity. So if you have someone there, I've been like the only Black woman in a lot of my different workspaces, providing that listening and not like, tell me what, no, just more of like, hey, we recognize what's happening. My door's always open if you'd like to talk. However, I do have, if you have an opportunity to talk to us about hiring and onboarding, things that we should know about the experiences that you have had at the company, we really would like to hear those instead of, not one meeting, but multiple meetings to really get to an understanding of how you can change office culture around that.
And I think that there are other things that we can do when we're at the corporate level, and we have many women who in this call who are VPs of companies or who have their own businesses and they have power over that. Sometimes just like reaching out to the leaders and asking, what are we doing? What are we saying? Did we send an email out? Did we put a statement on how we feel? Like, has our leadership decided what's their statement, and kind of encourage the company to actually pronounce themselves? Because if you're in the status quo and you're not, either you are supporting it or you're not. It's global. It's affecting everybody. It has gone worldwide. Which I don't know. For those of you who don't know this piece of information, the most amazing thing was to hear the teacher of Floyd to show, I don't know if you catch on to that news, she showed a piece of painting, un dibujo que él hizo when he was 8 years old. And he said that he was going to be a judge. Okay. So what, I guess goosebumps when I think that he is being that judge. Like it took his life for it, but it has gone, and it will change laws. And I do feel strong if we all do our part. If we all do, like influence, or just asking, if you have a newsletter, have you said something about this? Have you, now maybe you haven't, but now we gave you a lot of ideas here. You can even look at what Latinas Power has done. We came up with a newsletter. We created that anti-racism resources that you're welcome to share. Okay, has a lot of information, educational information, because that's the other thing. You can choose to be how to approach it. In the case of Latinas Power, everything we do comes from education, right? We just educate. I think that when we're educated and we understand it and we inquire and we learn, then we're more equipped to manage, to share, and to convene and be in action and galvanize for things to happen. So that's always, you can always seek for Latinas Power in there to support you in your conversation by just sharing education and passing on that education to your colleagues or your clients. Now, Carmen O'Reilly, she's a member of our community, and I really want to share this because a lot of us here might not experience this, but in her case, she's saying to you, Nashira, and to us, I'm learning so much. I have 2 successful Latino African-American sons. And I always told them, when the cops stop you, say, yes, officer, and so what they say. No, doesn't matter what they say. Unfortunately, they have both had a few bad experiences with cops. I always worry. And I have a daughter, and she has experienced everything that Sulmari advocates for. And this is Latina, right?
Yeah.
Latino sons, Latina. So we wanted to just have this conversation. It's 11, already 10:46. If there's any other questions and you want to stay in the call to ask them, Nashira, will be happy to answer them. If you have to, get back to your work and your life, that's great too. So I want to thank you, Nashira. I don't know if you catch on this, for those of you who came into the call later on, that I want us to take a pic right now. So if everybody, this is a big conversation for Latinas Power. It's our first equality table that we do. It's going to be in the history of our company. So if you could all open up your, the ones that want to be just show up in the camera. Thank you so much. So we can take this picture with all of us in it. And like I was saying, while everybody is getting on camera, that Nashira actually is the director of the Women's Center in FIU. Okay, yes. So this woman is a powerful resource, like on FIU, like she is influencing the Women's Center and all the students at FIU. And I have the pleasure to work for a project for the Women's Center with a big conversation that they have with companies, and they hired me to do like some networking. Those networking techniques that I show you, got paid for an event at the Women's Center. So we're very, very lucky to have not only her perspective as a woman who advocates for women empowerment, but as an Afro-American who also understands the Afro-Latina conversation. So you have been given the power, the smile, the charisma, the intelligence to advocate for change. And I want you to know that we're here for you. We will, whatever you need, in any way that we can help you in that conversation and be your allies, you can count on us. So are we ready for the picture? Okay, Lía Bustamante, ¿qué pasó? Te nos fuiste la cámara, te apareciste bien bonita, Lía, con hielo, y después se nos fue. Okay, so Chloe, if you can, Carmen O'Reilly, if you can, that'll be great. So we can have this picture. Okay, so Carmen O'Reilly's there, yay. Chloe, if you can, and if not, it's okay. So we're ready.
And I'll be 1 minute.
Oh, we have to give her 1 minute because Chloe and Evie's are advocates of everything women. Okay, and we definitely want Chloe to be in the picture. Thank you for your patience and thank you for wanting to put your cameras on. Doesn't matter where you are, even if you're in the car like Lisbeth. Okay, so you can give us a smile and be on the pic. Ready, Chloe? Are you putting lipstick on? Or you hiding like a boyfriend or a partner there? Or like, are you like, okay, wait a minute, like, okay, all right, here we go.
All right, on 3, ready? Smile. Yes. Don't get in an accident. 1, 2, 3. All right.
We did it?
Yeah, let's do it again. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, done.
Yes?
Yep.
We got it? Okay, awesome. All right, well, thank you so much for, oh, Yelitza estaba?
Yep.
Oh, okay, good. All right, well, thank you so much, Chloe. Thank you, all of you, for showing up. And I really want for all of you to pass it on. And however, like she said, even if it's with a pebble, the next time my dad actually said something about, but that guy has a little color, I'm going to put him in his place, like I've never done before. So that's coming up. So have an incredible day. And thank you for having the heart in the right place to help us move this conversation forward so we can be an ally. Because what I've learned in my spiritual journey, by the way, okay, is that every time I do something and I stand for someone, I stand for myself, and there's a whole legion of a spiritual energy that stands for everybody else. So sometimes it just takes like that one thing for you to do, and that's enough to move energy, you know, and for the universe and whatever you believe in to also help you and support you in that conversation. Okay. Have a great day, Nashira. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lucy.
Gusto. Thank you.
Encantada. And I hope we have you again for yet another conversation.
Can I just say something?
Sure, go ahead.
I wanted to thank all of you and Nashira for taking the time to share our 5 points, which I think are very important. And I'm part of Citibank, and I just joined the diversity and inclusion team to drive this in my function. Would it be okay if I can contact you directly so that you could probably provide some information and feedback that I could use for my group and educate people on how be more active and engage and support you know, any activity, anything against racism or any type of discrimination?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay. Thank you so
Latinas Power
much.
in action. There you go, Yelitza. Yelitza, we're very proud of her because now she's going to have a space to not only advocate for Latinas, but advocate for diversity and equality. And so we're very proud of you, Yelitza. She has been very important in our community, and we're really excited to know that Nashira and you will be able to now take this conversation in Citibank. Okay, I mean, that's corporate, that's huge. So that's awesome. Just for that, and just seeing in the call that we're moving it forward, you know, that ya me hizo el día eso. So thank you so much. And then before we all go, I just want to let you know that there's a lot of things happening. Librada is going to give us version 2.0 of how to do Zoom meetings. The conversation is in English, Nashira, so you're welcome to come. Librada is an expert on everything that has to do on virtual facilitating, and she's like a guru on this. And she gave us a class already. She's going to give us yet version 2.0, the class. Lisbeth Ceballos, who just left the call, is also going to give us a webinar on leadership. And we're having a members only a members only luau party, okay, happening on the 25th of June. So everybody's going to be coming with the luau drinks, con la florecita de Hawaii. So that's going to be it's going to be Zoom, virtual luau party on Zoom for all our members on your community. So we're welcome to see you on that. Our happy hour networking event, which remember it's bilingual. So now you can invite everybody to the call. It's every woman to the call. It's happening on June 17. Everything is on the calendar, so please go register, and I hope to see you and connect on the networking setting that's coming up, and see you at the luau party if you're a member, and to continue to be educating and learning with all the webinars that we are doing. So thank you, have a great day, love you all.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you, bye-bye.